years passed. I'm sure Lou is looking down on us from someplace, but
I bet it's hot as hell where he is.
yeah, he abused a lot of people. But the irony of that is at Fort Bragg, a couple of years later, when he was in the throes of cancer, he found me, and all of a sudden I had a new best friend there at Fort Bragg. After all the abuse he heaped on me and had me heap on others.
Oh yeah. What year was that, Steve?
After I left Geovuk and came to S3, so that was probably August of '66.
Yeah, of course. See, I was a Bragg in 69 to 71, and he was there then.
Yeah, well, that's when I probably went through there again. Bob, you and I were someplace before Vietnam, weren't we? I'm trying to think.
I was in Fort Devon, 2nd Infantry Brigade, General Stilwell's brigade.
Yeah,
And
I thought
then,
you were an MP.
Yeah, did that too.
No, Lou, I remember he was suffered from insomnia, and he had me at least one occasion in the middle of the night, woke me up and had me fire one of the 18 commanders someplace that wasn't aggressive enough for him, like in the middle of the night. That was a little uncalled for. And yeah, I had another event where I supposedly screwed up him buying a teak recorder at the PX because I didn't drive the Jeep fast enough to get him to the PX in time. So he tore me up because I got him there late and he missed getting his thing. The other Lou Stein story is when we trained the mountain yards to parachute.
Right, our jump day.
Yep, and I remember he came in and did a stand-up landing with all the troops watching him. So you had all these guys thinking that's the way, we were taught PLFs and stuff, but we just saw this American commander do a stand-up landing. So I'm sure that attributed to the many broken legs that we had that day. Yeah, he was a piece of work. And the other thing is he used to fly in the helicopter with no seat. He'd never tie his seat belt down. And Dave and I, when we'd go with him, we were, of course, cinched in. And I think there was one hard banking turn that the helicopter made, and Dave and I both grabbed him so he didn't fall out of the helicopter. And I guess we may have wondered if that was a wise choice, but anyway.
It's all your fault then, huh?
Yeah, that was it. But I'd forgotten about Lou Stein until Bob reminded me that Ken Facey was before him and then Parmley was after him.
Yeah.
So you had two just outstanding guys as a Sea Detachment commander, and Lou Stein kind of slipped in there. But yep, that was. Well, Geovuk, I don't know whether you want me to say a few words, but I was only there, Minh Long, I was only there for about 60 to 90 days.
You were the first team that went into Minh Long.
We formed as a packet at Fort Bragg about 9 months before that. I went through pre-mission training. Steve Sosa was running that in Bragg for packets, and we trained with two other packets. I was lucky enough to get a guy named John Slover as a team sergeant, and Fred Funk as a team medic had been there before in earlier iterations at Buninaw and others. But anyway, we finished our pre-mission training and went to the Trang on March 17th or so. We were told we were going to build a new camp. We got into Nha Trang, and the decision was initially made we were going to go to Bong Son, which was south of Quang Ngai, but then they decided we were going to do a place called Min Long. So there was a B detachment in Quang Ngai with a full B team, and we flew from Nha Trang, Da Nang, got briefed by Colonel Facey, and then went down to Quang Ngai, and then we flew out to Min Long. I went out with Slover and a couple others, probably mid-March, 66. There was nothing there, just a bald hilltop, and the forces were RFPF, and they'd suffered an attack. I can't remember the date, but when we did our area recon, we went down to some of the fighting positions, and there was still a skeleton from one of the RFPFers that had been killed. So the RFPF, we had a pretty good force with it. They were afraid to go down into even that old outpost that had been overrun. Well, anyway, we stayed on the hilltop. We had no shelters. I remember we had a big kind of bamboo bed that was set up at night to get us off the ground, and there must have been 30 guys sleeping on this raised mat with three Americans stuck on the edge of it. We had no water. We had to go down to the stream downhill. But anyway, we were drawing up the plans to go in. I think the CBs were going to help, but then I don't know whether Bob can remember the date, but the shootout at Giavuk occurred with Jim Spencer's team, with one of the team's members. I don't know whether that story got relayed in the Giavuk, but drinking and a weapon pulled, and a tribal chief's son, brother, something, killed with one round through his skull, and then the shootout in the camp. Anyway, that occurred, and we were back in Quang Ngai, and Colonel Facey called me and said, split your team. I'm going to put you in Giavuk to replace Spencer and half of the team that's in there with your half of the team. And you lead the other half of the team there at Min Long. And he said, I'll let you pick the people. So I was able to pick the team. And I will admit that I picked John Slover and Funk and Odie Tucker and Paul Lowe. I picked kind of what I thought was the top members of our team to stay there in Giavuk. Mike Stearns went to Min Long, and a guy named Newsom, who was a radio guy, he stayed there, and I think Sergeant McConnell Intel stayed with me. Anyway, Steve, I can send you a picture of that team if that'd be helpful. Anyway, I got picked up by a caribou down in Quang Ngai, and a guy named Parker, who I think he was the B team S3. We flew into Giavuk at dark, last light, and Parker and I had both, I thought he'd been in the camp, but anyway, we walked through the front gate. This was literally the same day of the shooting. And the first building we saw was all blacked out. And of course, we both walked in, and inside were maybe 30, 40 of LLDB and mountain yards in a candlelit room. And Parker and I immediately decided we were in the wrong place. So we backed out and went into the team house, which had been pretty well shot up. So Spencer and I had a 2 or 3 day overlap, and that was it. My experience with Minh Long ended after 60 and 90 days with the area study, the area recon. Like I said, the RFPF there was a pretty grungy lot, but we pushed on. I don't know, Steve, that's as far as Minh Long goes, the majority of my memories of the time were at Giavuk and then in the S3 for the last 5 months.
Well, we heard a little bit about the story of the shootout the other day, where one of the NCOs apparently felt somebody at a banquet thing where
Yeah.
he got pretty drunk, trying to take his pistol out of his belt.
Right.
And they got a scuffle, and
Yep.
the village chief's son at the end of the table got killed.
Got killed. Yeah.
And,
I think that one, it was the old rice wine sort of jug that they had set in the area. I heard they were all doing the straw drinking business, and there was like benches, and you always found they liked to scoot up. You know, they were right up, almost body to body, sitting when they were sitting there, and the NCO felt somebody grabbing around the weapon he had on his hip and just pulled up. So that was the story. But, you know, my evaluation of Giavuk, I don't know where Virgil felt the same, was about 30% of the troops we had there were VC sympathizers. And that was the reason that Thompson, my replacement, got shot in the back on one of the first operations he went out on. I think a guy named Sapp was killed before Jim Spencer. He got shot in the crossing a river. I heard he was also shot in the back. And then Thompson, in his first operation outside the camp, he got shot in the back.
Well, one of the things I did not get in the discussion yesterday, there was a long history with the Ray tribe that goes back to the French period of time, in which the Ray were pretty well tied up to the local Viet Minh.
Yeah.
And then at some point, one of their leaders was killed by the Viet Minh, very similar to what had happened with the Cao Dai. And they turned on the Viet Minh, and there was it was pretty rough between the two of them. So they have had some residual loyalties to the Vietnam,
Yep.
but
I-
there was an animosity as well.
Yep. We did an inventory of the hand grenades in the ammo bunker one time while I was there, and we found a good percentage of the caps in the grenades had been removed by somebody. Also, I think there's a history while I was there. A CIA guy with the honest last name of Smith came out and spent 2 weeks with us, and his mission was a little unclear, but he disappeared for like 3-4 days with a couple of the Montagnards, and he was telling me he was looking for old weapons caches or something. It didn't ring quite true to me. I did some research on him over a number of years, and I found out that he had in fact been from a missionary family that was in Vietnam. And
That would have been Gordon Smith.
it could have been. I have a picture of him with he and I standing up on the outpost. That I can send that to you, and maybe
and
you'll.
your other picture too,
Yeah,
the team picture.
yeah. I'll send those two to you. But Smith stayed there, and I read his bio years later, and it was kind of an adventure. I don't know whether he's a CIA contractor or a regular employee, but he was the real deal. And so anyway, he drifted through there, and I don't think the true story of what he was really doing. I don't know whether any CIA archival reviews from that period would say what he did, but he took a lot of notes and stuff.
Well, his whole family was a missionary family. And
Yeah.
they've been involved in Vietnam for some time. I right off the top of my head, I don't remember the name of the organization, but they were a Bible translator. They were using Bible translation.
Yeah.
To proselytize the Montagnards.
Yes.
And
yes.
they're very, very effective, and they did a lot of good work in terms of collecting language information.
Yeah.
I might there may
I
be
think there was a book written about him. I believe
so.
I heard about it. Yeah.
I don't know what I didn't get a chance to talk to McEwen here to find out why he was disappearing. He was apparently may have done this on a telephone because he didn't have a camera set up. So
is Bob Amick still there?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, Bob, let me give you my email address and reach out.
Okay.
It's Perry, like my last name, the numeral 2, NYC, New
Wait a
York
second.
City,
Perry.
NYC.
To
Two.
NYC.
Yes, at gmail.com. Yeah, and I think I got some pictures of you at your prime. When you were
You got a
dark-headed.
landline?
Huh? I didn't hear you, Bob.
You got a landline telephone?
Oh, yeah, 202-352-2908.
202, that's a Washington, D.C. number.
Yeah, I spent 13 years there in the DC government in a law enforcement job, which is a horror story in itself. Before I retired, I'm out in California, Menlo Park. I did before we got off Minh Long, I wanted to say a word about Mike Stearns.
Right?
Steve, I don't know whether they've talked about Mike and his death with the Minh Long crew.
No, we
But-
really haven't had the Minh Long crew together here.
Yeah. Stearns came with me in the packet, and we flew as a packet on a C-130 from Bragg to Nha Trang. We made a stop in San Francisco about, I think it was an overnight, and Mike Stern was from the Bay Area. To cut the chase, we got ready to load up to go on to the next leg, and Mike was not there. He had evidently gone home to see his wife, and we held the aircraft as long as we could, and we had to fly off. So when I got to Nha Trang, they asked me, did I want to drop this guy and charge him with missing? I said, no, just get him on a plane and send him off. And so no action was taken to him. So he flew up, met us, very embarrassed to meet his team after he had failed to make the plane. But anyway, a week from our rotational thing, they had this big ambush at Minh Long, and Mike volunteered with probably 2 or 3, 4 days left before to go in the C detachment to go out and try to relieve the members of the team. And of course, he was killed. I felt pretty bad about it on a number of levels. The Army was not very diligent in notifying the family of his death. So when the whole team arrived, that minus Mike, got in the Bay Area, one of the team members called the family, and the family had not been notified of Mike's death. They thought they were going to receive a call that he was come home with the rest of us. Very, very tragic.
You came as a team and you went home as a team?
Yeah, we all gathered
Well-
up. There were a few people that stayed around. I think Sam Hernandez
Yeah.
that went on to do bigger and greater things with SOG and stuff. Sam was an E5 assistant demo guy on my team. Very lucky to have Sam on the, as a brand newbie, you could see this guy was going to do great things. And he did. I was lucky as a green captain to have some very good NCOs that stopped me from doing stupid things. So, but anyway, I always felt bad about the Mike Stearns story, and I think they may have given him a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart or something, but I thought he deserved more.
Well, I appreciate you telling me that, Steve. Mike was with me out there at Minh Long,
Yeah,
and he was CA PsyOps. And none of my Special Forces people spent more time outside that camp in the villages around there or on patrols than Mike Stearns.
Yeah.
And he'd get a day off. You remember we got one day off to come into Da Nang. He'd go in with half an aircraft full of crap he collected from the mountain yards
yeah,
and trade it to the Air Force and come out with a full aircraft the stuff we needed to finish building the camp. And
Yep.
Mike was 24/7, totally
Yep.
dedicated. And I know the area where the ambush was. I hadn't been home too long after that happened. And I got the idea in my brain that someone with lesser experience planned a patrol route that had been used too often in the past.
Yep. Yeah.
And so 3 outstanding soldiers lost on that operation.
Yep.
And I appreciate you bringing me current on your half of it, because Mike was a fine young man.
Yeah.
And, he, like I said, people going 24/7, Mike was right there.
Yeah. He was, you got, our pre-mission was maybe 4 months, something like that. So you got to know everybody. And Mike had just been, I think, recently married, very young wife. He was young. I can see him loitering around trying to get every minute. So when it came time to, ruin his career and say no, to throw the book at him, actually, John Slover, my team sergeant, was just a real good guy. And he says, we got to bring this guy back into the fold. And I never regretted it. I did get in a bit of trouble afterwards about some new people that had shown up at Minlong that I felt, with Mike having so few days, those guys might have been the ones that should have raised their hand, but Mike did. That's, yeah.
I just
That's
posted.
just the way Mike was.
I just posted in the chat, if you can find it over there. I posted his Silver Star Award. It was
Oh, really?
It was upgraded.
Oh,
So,
great. I didn't know that.
If you have where it says chat on your computer, on the Macintosh, it has 3 dots on the side.
I'm just on my iPad, Steve.
On your iPad, it has 3 dots up on the top
Yeah.
left-hand corner.
Okay.
Click on the 3 dots and it says chat.
Okay.
And then there should be a message in there for you. Or for everyone. Everyone can read the message. William?
Yeah, that's me, Steve.
Which William are you?
No, it's not. It's Brett Emblin.
Oh, why are you William?
That's a very good question. I have a feeling it's my son's Zoom account. It didn't ask for any names. It's just come up that way.
That's some overflow from the Russian Psy war effort.
All right, what's wrong with your camera? You just shy?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to, hang on, I'll get back to that. Where's the thing gone?
Hey, Brett is a friend of mine. He's over in jolly old England here. So he's come here to join us.
Oh, all right.
This guy is an expert on equipment. If you want to know how many threads, what the thread count was in your uniform, he can tell you.
I'm not sure about the thread count, but I'm pretty good on the other stuff.
Hi.
Good evening, gentlemen.
All right. So all of you should have received that file with the award order in your chat section.
Well, I'm so glad that happened.
You can download it and save it. And do
Yeah.
what you want with it. So this thing really works out pretty well. There's a lot of things that you can do with it. You saw me before displaying a map. So they're good things.
Yeah.
Before we
Steve, I was going to mention, I had a pretty good file of pictures and actually some video that was taken of the Mike Force at in C1 that I forwarded to Gene Luck over in wherever he's in the UK or France. The guy
John
that
Luke.
runs,
Oh,
John
John
Lewis,
Luke.
yes.
yeah. And he actually made a disc of the Mike Force parachute training and some video of Geovuk. The only problem is I had a lot of it, and he wanted me to go almost frame by frame and narrate it, but I just never had the time. So he may still have the product, a video.
He was on with us yesterday.
Yeah,
So he was part of the discussion yesterday. On the video, it is possible to just sit there and watch the video and put a voice over the video.
yeah, that's what he wanted me to do.
Yeah.
Now that I'm getting a little older, maybe I should take a little more time to do these things.
You're the only one who knows the details. Nobody else can capture
Yeah.
the picture.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll do that and I'll send it to you.
Okay. And send a copy to him because he's doing a good job of
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
it out there. Also, I have a website, specialforcesphotos.com, as
Okay.
opposed to specialforcesbooks.com. And you can go to that, sign in, and then when I get around to it, I see that you've signed in, I verify that it's you as opposed
Yeah.
to some Russian bot.
Yeah,
And you can go up on that website and you can upload pictures, and there are folders for every camp in Vietnam.
yeah,
And the nice thing about that website is A, I don't have to do anything. You put the picture up.
oh, really? Okay,
And B, you write the caption. And when you write the caption, the next guy comes along and looks at the picture. He says, I'm the third guy from the left. He
Yeah.
can write that as an additional
what's
comment.
the link, Steve, again?
Specialforcesphotos.com
Special Forces photos, okay,
as opposed to specialforcesbooks.com, which is my
Okay.
other website.
okay,
Okay.
it's good to know. Because I've got one photo of San Hernandez that looks like he's about 15 years old.
Oh, good. I'll use it on him next time I see him. Bob,
Yes, sir.
it was you who came in right after Spencer. So you're at camp.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about your time.
Well, Steve took real good notes on his assessment, and also plagiarization was not a big factor at that point in time. So I used a lot of Steve's notes in forming a construction plan for the camp. And what we did, Steve, we, where you were up on the Rough Puff Hill,
Yeah,
and then we moved the camp down, the hill, the last place they defended that had the B-52 strikes in it,
right.
had all those holes in it. That's where we went.
What hills are we talking about? Was this the original hill that you call the Rough Puff Hill?
Yes.
Yeah, and this is where the camp went.
No, because Rough Puff Hill would have been on up north of here. This runway here is 790 feet long, and then the Puff Hill was up here, I think, wasn't it, Steve?
Yes,
North
And,
of the runway.
yeah,
But
So
maybe here.
what we did, Steve, went in on really a crushed timeline. General Walt gave us a platoon of CBs and a platoon of recon to do recon, and we took what came out of A shell and created a search and destroy force with it. And as best we could, we kept those actions going, and recon, did some real good recon work for us. A lot of it up in that area and on beyond that area where Mike got killed there at the end. Then built a pretty good camp, I felt. Everything was concrete, underground. And so I got my job done. And for the last month, I came back in the C team. And I don't know whether you remember it or not, but I'm a guy that jumped 5 cows out of the back of 130 because the mountain yards wouldn't eat meat unless they killed it.
Yeah.
You remember that, Steve?
Yep. That's
And we didn't scratch a one. We jumped them into Minh Long and built frames, took A-108 straps and cinched up where the hooves were about 2 inches off the deck, G13 parachute on the back and pushed their ass out the back door. And we dropped 5 of them.
I had forgotten that story.
Yeah, and didn't scratch one. So we became heroes to the yards overnight when we gave them 5 cows that they could slaughter and eat.
Wow.
But those are the fun things that happen that you don't forget. And you know, the bad days we had with Stein, hell, I flushed those a long time ago.
Yep. Yep.
But just remember the good and blessed with, and along with Mike, I had another youngster named Lonnie Schultz. Do you remember Lonnie? Redheaded kid?
No, I
He
sent
was
you
like weapons man.
I
But
sent
he
you
and Mike were about the same age.
Newsome, the radio guy, was about the only one I remembered. Other than,
But Schultz, he's the only one that has significant psychological problems after coming back. He came back. He got a master's degree in Vietnam studies. He got a PhD in Far Eastern studies, but his total focus was on Vietnam.
Wow.
He passed away about 10 years ago. That's all I could talk about. All I could think. All the pictures I had from Minh Long and all, I sent to his psychiatrist so they could go through those pictures and hopefully bring him around a little bit. I never got my pictures back either.
I think they did a good job with him because I recall that I had long discussions with him and email communications up until the time he died. And I never was aware of any particular problems that he had.
That's
And
great.
I was just surprised that at one time he wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
So
His family was down in southern Alabama, and he'd call maybe once a month. And my son knew him. He'd call my son, talk to him, and no one was more committed than those two. Those were the 2 youngsters on the team, and they were always up forward and ready to go.
Yeah, Bob, how about Bill Buman?
Bill Buman left there about just as we were getting ready to move down to the new hill. And they needed someone. You remember Bill could speak French. They needed someone to speak French or something to pull him out.
Oh, really? He was my XO on the original packet.
Right.
And I found Bill was at Fort Belvoir. He went to work in the as a civilian for the Fort Belvoir. I'm not sure what capacity, but he evidently retired there. I tried to get a hold of him to send him some pictures. I sent them and didn't receive a response. There was a few guys that were kind of angry with me about when we split the team. In fact, I have a picture that of the guys going off to go to Minh Long from Giavuk. And there's a picture of Newsome giving me the finger as he got on the helicopter.
These are all emails from Lonnie Schultz going back to 2011.
Wow.
And look, every week he's got some more
Yep.
stuff he's sending. You're prolific.
And he was your demo man, Bob?
He was light weapons, wasn't he?
Light weapons. Wow.
Of course,
When you-
you talk about demo man, any man who had a quarter pound in his hip pocket was a demo man that day.
I'll tell you a good story about Sam Hernandez. We had an old French truck in Geovuk that you couldn't get the lug nuts off. So Sam and the other, I think somebody else involved, they decided to wrap a little C4 around the lug nuts. And I was in one part of the camp and I heard this tremendous explosion. And I just glanced down and this whole French truck was lifted up about, I may exaggerate, a foot or two. They had blown not only the lug nuts, but they'd practically destroyed the whole undercarriage with their scheme to
Free the lug nuts.
loosen up the lug nuts. And then another story, Sam got in that truck and it got out of control. He ran with mountain yards flying off and ran into a tree that was full of fire ants. And Sam and the whole crew got showered with fire ants. Yeah, there's a lot of good Sam stories.
Good. I'll have to tell him that for his failing
Tell
to be
him that-
here. I'll have to remind him that.
I haven't talked to Sam in years, but I followed him through the Special Forces magazine newsletters, the drop. He and Gloria, his wife, are, really, really special people.
And he has one of the unusual awards for SF. He has the Order of the Third Elephant or something, or Order of the Elephant Third Class from Thailand, which is a very high award that very few people have. And that was all to the shows that he put on in Thailand to raise money for the hospitals there.
Wow. No, they're Sam and his wife are just really nice, good people.
Yeah.
Good people.
Tom, you're the late soul here. You were 69, 70. What was going on at that time?
It was 69 out at camp, and then I got begged to go around. That was on the other end of Min Long's history. We're getting ready to turn over the CIDG to the border ranger, Arvin. I got pulled out of the camp that fall and was given a team of Vietnamese to go around to the camps and record all the CIDG, get their pictures, get their fingerprints, get their rifle numbers in preparation for the turnover. It was that Bob, I'd like to mention, you should have left better notes on dropping cows. As we were out at Hatan and they had the airstrip closed down. We were the last ones come in when I was doing the circuit riding, and they had a camp celebration set up. And they're going to drop in the cow. But they built the cage from the ground up, and it worked fine getting loaded on the aircraft with the forklift. They come over and I'm out there with this team of Vietnamese and pictures and all this stuff, and it's all the yibbity, yibbity, yibbity. And I asked one of my interpreters, what's going on? They said, well, they're dropping food in for the camp celebration. And then it was, everybody bailed out, so I went to see. They'd pushed the crate out with the cow in it. Soon as the parachute deployed, the bottom of the cage, the container, come out and the cow burned in.
That's why you use the 7A straps.
So I admit, being a jumper, a little curious, I had to go over and look at it. The cow hit on the side, and one side was just flat. And other than that, the cow didn't look too bad. About half an hour later, there wasn't anything but kind of a wet spot where it had hit. The Montagnard said, chop that cow up. And
Yeah, he was still alive enough to eat.
But getting back to Minlong, when I arrived I got something that no A-team really was too excited about. A helicopter coming in the middle of the day and dumping off a green second lieutenant, fresh from Bragg. The camp was well established. The team house, which the Seabees had built, was still very operational. It was kind of a eye opener for me because the helicopter come in, and I think the only reason they came and picked me up off of the helipad that was down from between the team house and the airstrip was the fact that the mail was there. Finally, somebody come down from the team house and loaded me up, and we went up. We were using, did they have the top when the Seabees built it originally? Was there a wood structure on top of the concrete?
No, we just had the base structure that was essentially underground. We did not have.
It had a screened sided building built right on the top. We'd watch movies in there, and we'd eat in there, and looked out over that side of the camp. They had a big garbage pit down on the other side of the where the drive come up by the team house. Between it and that'd be on the side of I think that would be north side of the camp. And that's where we parked the Jeep that the team used. And one night, kind of interesting on that, we're eating supper. We had a medic out there that was, well, the medics had a tough time. We usually just had one medic, so they never got off camp. They never got out on operations. They just dealt with patching people up. But he took perverse pleasure in burning the barrels from the crappers. Yeah, this, and he discovered that at that time there was a 175 and 8-inch artillery unit co-located down on the airstrip, and they didn't use all of their powder bags. So he took the Jeep down there and got would get trailer loads of these powder increment bags, or these big guns. And then he'd use those he put a little diesel in the barrels from the shitters, and then one of these bags, and then touch it off, and it was kind of instant incineration. So one night he decides he's going to burn at supper time, going to burn the garbage pit that was just across the driveway coming up to the team house. So he comes driving up there.
Andy, I'm on a conference.
He's got a bunch of increments in this trailer, and he pitches them into the garbage pit, pulls out his 45 that he has loaded with tracers, and commences to fire into the increment bags. All of a sudden they went, and the one side of your face was about 100 degrees hotter than the other side. It was just white inside the building, and this beautiful white mushroom cloud rose up. This is about sunset, just when a helicopter was on its way in. And we got a call on the radio that was patched up from downstairs, asking what type of incoming we were taking. This same medic went into Da Nang on one of those rare breaks. They sent out another medic to cover. He got, there was one tree on the road when I was there. C-team was on the beach, you know, north of Marble Mountain on the beachfront. I don't know if they were there when you were there. And there was one tree on that road that run by up to the Naval Hospital. He got drunk and run his Jeep that he'd borrowed in there into that one tree and stuck his head through the windshield, come back all stitched up. But it was an interesting time coming in, and we had an individual that the team, the captain was Gilbert, and we had a problem with rats in the rice warehouse. So he got a couple of Montyards to go out. He wanted a snake, a little restrictor to take care of the rats. Told him that he'd give them 2,000 piastres or 200 piastres for each foot. So these 3 Montyards went up, down, it would be to the east, and come back with a 13-foot rock python, which they put in a mail bag and brought up to camp. And that was, we called her Cuddles. She was there when I arrived. And they periodically take her out of the cage for pictures, which she didn't appreciate. But Cuddles actually ultimately went into C-team because his brother-in-law was Dan Sharp, was the maintenance guy at C-team at that when I was there. So when Gilbert rotated out to head home, the snake went to Da Nang. And then it got stuffed in a mailbox and went in on a helicopter, the mail helicopter into a mail bag. And I'm not sure that the pilots ever looked at where they're going. They were keeping an eye on that mail bag. But it made it in, and they had them running, Cuddles running loose in the maintenance, vehicle maintenance shop there at the C-team, until it got fed a laced duck. It's probably stuff that, unless you guys were over there back during that time, that there's some strange things going on the C team or the S5 was going to teach the Montagnards how to raise ducks. We got ducks out and brought out to the camp and under threat that if these ducks disappeared, you know, hell would be to pay. And as if the Vietnamese and the Montagnards didn't already know how to raise ducks, but it was a different time.
You know, Steve, when you cross-reference all this, you can put a paragraph in there for holy shit, we've got it covered now.
Was that Ham or Kohler? That was your medic.
Pardon?
The medic you were talking about? Was that Ham or Kohler?
No, it was I think it was Flores was his name.
Okay, yeah.
And he come back with, we called him Scarface after he come back with that, because he had cut all the way through his cheek. He could stick his tongue out through it. And
Wow.
they sewed him up and brought him back. And Brennan was the medic that was there prior to Flores.
Ham was after, and Kohler was also after that. And Kohler died. It just says died non-hospital. So I never did find out what happened to him.
We had, I was kind of interested. I hadn't heard nobody talked about it. Apparently not much knowledge. Where did the ambush occur that these Stern and the others died at?
That ridge east of the camp, back toward the South China Sea, there's a big ridge that runs north-south.
Yep.
It's about 2 miles long, and there's only two trails. It used to be only two trails in and out, and people got in the habit of taking a shortcut or taking the same route, because you knew Charlie was using it, because every now and then they'd plant one of their flags up there, and then it would stay up 2 or 3 days and it'd be missing. So tried to bait us into coming up there.
So where was this?
Okay.
Let's see, we got altitude on this.
You were from the east, or to the east of the camp, or west?
To the east.
Okay, so
Northeast, right?
Yep.
going up the road here, like that, this
Yeah.
way?
No, it's, oops. Wait just a second. I hit the wrong thing.
I was only on one operation down there, and run into gibbons that apparently these apes had kind of taken over the area. Lots of abandoned rice fields or rice paddies, but nobody down there that I'm sure the BC were operational down there. We didn't make any contact.
It looks like over the ridge line over there to the east, you start to get into a pretty populated area.
Yeah, but and everything on top of that ridge, very few people went up there. I think there were several movements up and down through there, but you get over and people, I used to know the MAG-V guy that worked out of this area in here, and we communicate frequently. But talking about the rice paddies, Steve, if you recall, this whole area where the rice paddies were over here, when the camp was overrun before we got there, the NVA or the VC, whoever it was, pretty well destroyed the rice crops. And so the people didn't have anything to eat.
Yeah.
So we struck a deal with the people there in Quang Ngai City that provided rice and stuff like that. And we could get enough rice each week to pay the mountain yards 2.5 kilos a day to square away those bomb craters where the camp was built, so that the sea bees could build the structures in them. So that's how all those craters got squared away, was with that rice that we got from USAID in Guangzhou City, and because the crops were lost out there.
So the strike went in just across the hill, just south of the of Minlong itself. Then the village.
Which you talking about? I'm talking about the hill really turns steep there and hangs back this way somewhere in within these 4 blocks. I don't know where. I'm working on pure hearsay. Steve, do you recall?
No, I don't. I'm just looking at it now, and you probably have a better recollection than I do.
I don't think anybody can see when you point. They can only see when I point.
Yeah.
So if you have something, you gotta give me some clues as to where it is, and I can point to it.
Okay.
That seems to be the camp. This is the runway.
Yeah.
There's a road going to the northwest.
Okay.
A
And
couple of minor,
to go up on that ridge, you go east 2 blocks, and then you go north 2 to 3 blocks. It's that whole ridge. Go back a block.
so I gotta go up here.
Yeah, that's about as far as you can go, and then it levels down, and there's an area on down in here where the
I can't see where you point to when you
Okay.
say here.
okay, that's that whole area there. Go from that area where your pointer was back down southwest, follow the top of the hill down 2 men long.
Okay, this trail you're talking about here.
There's a trail on top of the ridge. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so somebody's going on that trail and gets that's where he gets killed. Along that trail.
Somewhere in there. Yeah.
All right, look,
When,
And
when-
oddly enough, in this general area, but a little further north of there, on the recon that we were using that General Walk provided us, we had a 4-person team, recon team, go out, and we supposedly had an agreement with Quang Ngai that they would fire their artillery in support, which when they got ambushed, they didn't. And I don't know if you ever remember the name Gunny Kaufman or not. Gunny Kaufman had a team, and all 4 of them were wounded, and they did kill a far greater number of Viet Cong in the ambush. But Kaufman was awarded the Navy Cross for that action. So that I would rank that probably as the highest award out of that area, and then Mike Stern's Silver Star would be the second.
most of our action when I was at camp was down in the Southern Valley. There was I think they referred to the 23rd NVA regiment was there, and this is post. You're talking 1969, and they were licking their wounds. They didn't want to engage, but we couldn't catch them. We'd go out with usually about 40 strikers, and they just avoided contact. We did one helicopter assault down there. I think it's probably the only one where we put in about 60 some strikers and then walked back. And we split up the force and had some very successful ambush. They thought we'd left, but they'd find some of the patrols that were out would find steaming water buffalo crap, and you couldn't find the water buffalo. Now, I can see people jumping in tunnels and stuff, but how the hell do you hide a water buffalo? It was pretty quiet. I always refer to my time out there as being Mr. Magoo. Where I went, nothing happened. I'd go someplace else and then stuff would happen, but that's not a
Well, I
complaint.
guess you hide them like you would an elephant. You paint their balls red and you put them on an apple tree.
Look, on the same incident where Stearns got the Silver Star, I'm showing Tom Sanchez is getting a DSC. So is that your time, Bob?
No, that was after me.
3/8/36/67.
Yeah, that would have put him connected to that same operation that Stearns was on then.
That's right. And he was a master sergeant, so he should have been a team sergeant.
I didn't know that. I never did meet him, Steve.
I didn't either. That's name.
Okay.
Who was your team sergeant, Bob? Did I stump you there?
Do what?
Who was your team sergeant?
Yeah. He asked me so fast. You know, the one that I went back in with last month where I could play with airdrops was Talamine from Bateau.
Yeah, Don.
But this one, Shimony Christmas. I don't have my little pad in front of me.
Yeah,
Look at 108 and look under team sergeant.
yeah.
I got Slover, Stevens. Then I have a question about Price, and then
Okay, Price, Robert K. Price.
Right.
Yeah.
And who was talking? You were talking about, who else were you talking about? Talamine.
Talamine was down in Bateau.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we spent that last month playing with airdrops and all at C team.
All right. Well, Sanchez presumably came after Price. I don't know when he actually arrived there, although I have him there on 9/66. But he was the team sergeant when Sanchez went on this operation. They gave him a DSC.
Wow.
So something must have been going on. I have to go read the award citation.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because the only DSCs from that area I remember are the ones at Ashow, and that was about it.
Dave and Lou Murray got them.
Yeah.
What was the name of the recon force recon person that got?
Okay. Well, you know, if I'm talking, I can remember it. Okay, what the hell was it? Gunny Kaufman. He later was commissioned Kaufman, I think. He was later commissioned and retired as lieutenant colonel and died in 2008. I've looked him up several times.
Okay.
Gunny Kaufman.
Okay.
And that was Navy Cross.
I'm going through here on awards.
Sir?
I'm going through here on awards. This was at 3/67 when Sanchez and Stearns get awards. Okay, then we haven't got a great deal of people here, so we can't look at it all, but one of the medics got a Bronze Star in June of '68, and Pete Moricon got a Bronze Star on the same day as a team sergeant did.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of Purple Hearts.
When were Purple Hearts? Should have been, the initial bunch should have been the first time that when Stearns and Sanchez received their Valor Awards.
Lonnie Schultz got a Purple Heart on 10/19/66.
Yep. Okay. I'm trying to remember what he did,
And then
which operation that was.
Peeler got a Purple Heart on 2/22/67. But that was Peeler doing there.
That would have been tied to closer to Stearns's operation.
Now, where's Peeler come into the whole deal?
Who?
He was a guy 2 people after you, so you were already gone by the time anything happened to Stearns. Okay.
Yeah. I was.
You would have been gone before Sanchez would have been coming in as
Yeah.
you were going out.
Well, I left in March of
You arrived in
67.
March and left on the 18th of May.
I left the S3 shop at C1 in March of '68.
Right. Your tour was from 3/5/66 to 3/5/67. But
Right,
you were there
right.
from 3/5/66 to 5/18/66
Right.
when you traded off with Spencer.
Yeah. That.
And then Bob Amick came in there on
Yeah.
the
Right.
7/19, July 19th, and I left there sometime around the 1st of October.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering.
Well, I actually worked that construction operation from Quang Ngai, hooking up all the program things that, Steve had left that I could get set up there and make arrangements for before I went out there too. And when I went out there, Buhlman was, I think, acting as the detachment commander.
Yeah, that may have been it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
Buhlman
wondering
was in the XO. If nobody else was there, he was in charge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there might have been a PSYOPs officer, but I can't remember who that was.
The PSYOPs officer.
What's his name?
I can't remember.
Wayne Greiner. I'm surprised he's not here. Well, no, there was not until 10/66. There was no PSYOPs officer. So there's no,
Yeah.
during the time you were there, you didn't have a PSYOPs officer
Yeah.
unless you had somebody.
Yep.
who was
But I had one.
If
He
you
got
had
shot in the
one,
chest. He got a Purple Heart.
he was attached, probably.
Yeah, that was Gary Broche. No, the guy that got shot in the chest.
Broche.
There was one officer there. The story was he confronted a VC and the guy unloaded on him and he only got hit once in the chest.
Gary Broche was an A-104.
Okay.
That would have been down your area, Steve.
Yeah,
Then he was the CPO officer at group headquarters.
yeah. I think
And
Gary was the one that got wounded in that. I just
can't-
wondered
can't
if,
happen
I'm sure, Steve, you've heard the saga of John Fuel at Trebong.
Yeah,
John was my next door neighbor there at Bragg.
Yep. John and I were at Fort Dix together for almost 3 years. Then we went to SF school together. Then we went to Laotian language school together. And John left a couple of months ahead of me and was killed, you know, that unfortunate deal there at Trebong.
Yeah, I think we went to the school together, SF
Yeah.
school.
Yep.
We were in the same class, weren't we?
Yeah.
And along with, and Steve was in there. Do you remember
Yep.
Billy Jack Phillips?
Yep. It's probably
And-
still in Thailand.
That, yeah, how do you have, Steve, do you have anything in there on Billy Jack Phillips? He was one of our contemporaries. And then after Vietnam, because he was Thai linguist, he got a job in Thailand and liked it well. He just stayed.
Yeah, he married a Thai.
Yeah, he died in 2017.
The other guy I was going to ask about was George Reese.
Yeah, George Reese, he was in the V team.
He was the S2.
George Reese was in Key West, Florida. I haven't had occasion to call him yet.
Have you got a contact number for him, Steve? I've been trying to find him for years.
You can try.
No, Reese was up there in the C team, wasn't he?
Yeah,
George Reese.
Yeah, he stayed in the S2 and he was at Dix with me, and then we went to SF and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So George,
He was down in Quang Ngai City.
he was the S2.
And
Yeah,
he
George
was high off now.
got out right away and went back to Key West.
And the number I have in Key West is 305-296-4531, but that's probably a very old number.
Yeah, I don't have a pen with me, Steve. I'll just send you an email and get that number from you.
Okay. All right. Oh, one other element to the history of Minlong you might be interested in. The camp was turned over to the 68th Border Ranger as the 68th Border Ranger. It was not turned over; it was renamed. And it actually had a shorter lifespan than most of the other camps. But that lifespan was longer than you would expect because it was not overrun until 1973.
Wow.
So
It hung in there pretty good.
Yeah,
they did. Yeah.
either that or they thought they were so in
Either that
remote
or
places.
There was a gate.
They weren't worth the going after.
Well, you remember those days, Steve, you let your counterpart draw up the operation, then you'd take it and shoot a 180 and make contact every time.
Well, at Geovuk, you could go to certain places and 100% you knew you were going to draw contact.
Michael, you're here early for A-102, right?
I guess.
You weren't at A-108. You weren't at
No,
Minlong.
no. I thought it was 1400 your time.
No.
Steve, this is Steve Perry. I'm going to have to drop off. Bob, I'll give you a call soon.
Okay, let me give you my number. I'm gonna send you an email tonight.
Okay,
Can you
just
copy
send
the
me an
number?
email.
Okay, I'll send an email and I'll put my phones and all that.
Okay, good. All right.
Okay,
Hold on.
Yeah,
1 minute.
Steve.
Because I screwed up on the deal here, on the timing, what I will do is after I have the video for this done, I'll call another Zoom meeting just for A-108.
Okay. Sounds good.
Because you had a lot of people that didn't get in on this.
Yeah, I bet.
But and meanwhile, on the email that I sent you, you've got addresses for the email addresses for the other people.
Yes.
So talk amongst yourselves and encourage others to join the next session,
Okay.
whenever that will be. And I'll make it a point to do this one more time because I really apologize for screwing up on the timing.
Yeah, before Steve goes, let me ask you one
Yeah.
question, Steve.
Yeah.
Uh, did you see Lou Mari at the funeral last month?
I went to
Dave Blair?
I went to Ken Facey's funeral at Arlington, and Lavinia Blair is going to let me know when his funeral is going to be at Arlington, and I'm going to go to DC.
Okay. Well, when Steve's supposed or Lou's supposed to give me a call back. When he does,
Okay.
I'll find out if he's going too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm going to be at Blair's for sure.
Okay, Lou. Okay, but I'll get you an email out tonight and we'll
Okay.
get to talking.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks.
It's like old home week.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve Sherman.
You're quite welcome. I enjoyed it. Lots of good information being passed here.
See you later. Bye.
I apologize for the mess up on the timing.
Well, hell, that just made it more natural and more fun, man.
Well,
You're a hell of a lot harder to ambush when you don't set a pattern.
well, you know, the thing is that people are not here when other people are talking, miss the opportunity for a rebuttal. On the other hand, you get some good stories you might not have got if they were present.
Yeah, that I've been crowded. Some of those I wouldn't like. I want to talk about painting the testicles red on an elephant. You know, I've never talked about that. If I wasn't with a small group.
Well, I have to chide Sammy Hernandez for the knocking over a tree of ants.
Could I,
Some other stories.
sorry, Steve, could I just ask a quick question about sort of supply of uniforms and equipment?
Go.
Oh, okay. Good evening, gentlemen. How were your sort of, well, uniforms, be it olive green standard US issue, or tiger stripes, or even the spotted camouflage? Did it come? How did they arrive? And did you have a camp tailor? Did they come pre-cut? That's it.
The C team had a supply room, really.
Yeah.
That was the source of most uniforms. Why
Yeah,
don't you
but
go
did
talk to
they
your, you've got here somebody from 1966 and
Mhm.
somebody here from 1969. So the differences in how the equipment was distributed might be obvious. So why don't you, Tom and Bob, why don't you talk about how you receive uniforms in country?
Bob, do you want to go first?
What we did, I don't ever remember getting any camis that weren't extra small in country. And we got those through the channels the Vietnamese Special Forces used. And you get those same guy you got the battle boots from. And it was easier just to get the black pajamas, which you could get bigger sizes and use those. And but truth be known, the small group, the advantage we had of being alone, we could hear a helicopter from a great enough distance whereby we always had time to put on that one uniform that we had hanging up and clean. So whenever the helicopter landed, we were always in proper uniform rather than cutoffs and t-shirts and out working, you know. And but I remember the black pajamas being worn more frequently, a lot more frequently than the camis that the Vietnamese had.
Now,
I will tell you about our yards, though. You know, the yards didn't wear anything, but they went on strike because they didn't have battle boots. So we got them all battle boots. And they tied them around their neck, and they wore them around their neck for a year. Were they still wearing them that way in the Cape then? The battle boots?
Tom,
Pardon?
Were the Rays still wearing the battle boots?
Yeah,
tied around
well, it had moved up to where the status was if they could score a set of jungle boots.
their neck?
They'd put them on and they'd walk out of, start the operation. So they walked through the village with the jungle boots on, which had to hurt because their feet were like duck's feet, you know, and just one big callus. And then as soon as they got out, they carried it the rest of the operation.
Yep. That's,
But
That-
when we,
remember, the way we had to get pictures back home then, we get these little cameras, and it would make up 18 or 26. And you'd send that little package home and then have your wife develop, get it developed.
little Instamatics.
And a part of that action, of course, she would look at all of them. And it amazed her that Mountain Yard women wore nothing above the waist. And she was greatly concerned about that. So without talking to me, she has a clothing drive. Now she's in Ironton, Ohio, across from Huntington, West Virginia. And she gets all these clothes gathered up for the Mountain Yard women who don't have anything to wear. I'm putting them in a big ass box and ships me that box. And here comes a box 2 months later down to the camp level. Open that thing. Here's all these brassieres and tops and all that. So the only thing I could do once we all quit laughing, got the village chief in and say, this is a special gift from the women in America to your women. And let him worry about it.
you know, the some things didn't change, and when you look at it, it seems like it's a long period of time from the time the camp was started until I was there, and then the camp ultimately closed down. Didn't seem like too long, but everybody had that one uniform hanging in the team house when they were on the radio. And then you'd have to, if you had a helicopter coming in, everybody would disappear except the guy that was stuck on the radio. And then you'd have to go out, pop smoke and throw it down on by the helipad. And then you got your uniform on, and you were kind of stuck there, and the team captain couldn't really hide either. But that was everybody's procedure. It was cut off and flip-flops and sometimes t-shirt. I don't recall. I think I was most of the time just with a pair of cut-off fatigues. But as far as you were asking about uniform, when I got in country, I think it was Long Bend down there, I was issued 5 pair of jungle fatigue. And at that time, you got your name on them and everything down there. And then that was the only clothing that I was issued.
Oh, and sorry, when did you get that as you were in process?
Yep, processed in. And then out at camp, we had these tiger stripes.
Yeah, it was the tiger stripes. I was wondering how did they turn up from?
Out of the Philippines, I believe.
Out of Okinawa.
Okinawa,
Yeah.
okay.
But they're supposedly issued, I guess, to the CIDG. And you found any large size you guys?
I only wore the pants on my first operation, and I hadn't gotten a click out of camp before I noticed these bumps on my legs. Dropped my pants and I'm covered with leeches because I didn't have the pants tucked in in my boots. And after that, I figured the Montagnards are wearing a mix of everything. So I would wear the shirt, and I would just wear jungle fatigue pants. And as if I'm going to blend in with the Montagnards anyhow. At that time, I was 6'1". I'm shorter now, they tell me. But, you know, and so they were about up to the elbow on me. So who are you fooling?
And sorry, rucksacks. Were you using the sort of US issue lightweight rucksack with the frame, or were you using the sort of Sigi rucksack that came from Okinawa, like Steve mentioned?
The
CISO one.
Indig.
Indig, yeah.
And a BAR belt is what we were outfitted with. And then you had a radio, the Air Force survival radio.
Did you each American carry an Air Force radio?
Yep. The little one, they fit in one pouch, and
yeah.
And we had some.
Did y'all ever wear a steel pot?
No.
No. So
I had above my bunk, which was right to the west of or let's get my directions. Yeah, it'd be to the west of the team house. The bunker that I was in, I had my steel pot and I had my flak jacket hanging up just in case we got hit. Other than that, I just wore the floppy hat. And one thing I regret is I never had my camera out on operations, because I always would put everything in and I'd lift it up and I'd start taking stuff out, and I figured, well, I'll do it next time. So never got any pictures out wandering around with the yards. We had one interpreter there. On was his name. He was not on. New was a son of a Ray chief, and he'd been schooled some connection under Diem, and so he spoke very good English, and we relied on him greatly. I don't know how long he'd been at that camp. But it was an interesting year. And then I feel kind of fortunate. I got plucked out to take this team around to all the camps. So I got to visit all the camps in I-Corps that were in operation in the fall of '69.
When you were there, were you actually getting jungle fatigues, or you getting US fatigues that were tucked inside the pants?
jungle fatigues.
Okay. Brett,
Which
when
were
did they?
camis. They were
Yeah.
that ripstop material. Kind of lightweight.
Yeah, sounds about
It
right.
had the extra pockets on the outside of the bottom there. Pockets at the top and bottom. Yeah. Did it have,
The most valuable
lips?
thing I had over there was my poncho liner.
Oh, what type of poncho liner, dare I ask?
The original that we went over there, my first tour over there, I had, and then when I came right back, I brought it back, and they'd had kind of a commercial version made. This was, it was almost like parachute cloth, really. a
The
great
sort of
bunch them.
the spotted camouflage.
Yeah,
Ah, yeah, the
but
early one.
then they were out of the system. They were never available again. And but that's the best item I had.
Yeah,
We had uh, an indigenous one that was kind of you couldn't really call it all drab green. It was an off drab
a
green.
grey
That was
green,
about half the
half the
half the
size.
size of the GI one.
Yeah, I have one of those as well.
And then the other thing was we had indigenous hammocks that were sewn together
Hmm.
to get long enough.
Yeah,
And that
yeah. I have one of those. I got it from Gordon Rotman, who's
I'll
Steve.
tell you a
knows.
horror story about those hammocks. I hung out one night in a tree. I had myself and 2 yards, 3 of us. We were doing something I wanted to know more about, and so I just took 2 of them and went out. And I was up in the tree 6 or 8 feet, and I tied that hammock so I could. And then the damn mosquitoes were terrible. So I got my mosquito repellent and I sprayed it all around. About 2 hours later, that mosquito repellent had eaten through that nylon, and I went crashing to the ground. So lesson learned: don't ever spray yourself with mosquito repellent when you're using those things to hang yourself out.
I had mine. I thought the cord that come on the cargo chutes was a
power
little more
cord.
substantial than the parachute cord.
Oh, okay.
So I put that in. I didn't realize that was a cotton cord. And at POC time on operations, I'm sitting there. I can't sleep as much as the yards did. So after heating up some rice and out of the indigenous ration, I'm sitting there with it's a Louis L'Amour book or whatever it was, and I'm swinging back and forth, and the cord breaks. And one instant you're horizontal, and it was just like a magician whipping the tablecloth out from under the dishes.
Yeah.
One instant it was there, the next instant I'm on the ground. I'm saying in the same position, horizontal, I just dropped. Fortunately, what happened that time was fairly flat, and I hadn't been cutting brush, so I didn't skewer myself on anything. But that is amazing how fast the gravity works in a situation like that versus how slow gravity works when somebody is shooting at you. You think it's the same physics, but obviously it's not.
Yeah. You mentioned the indigenous rations. Did you both have those when you were both there?
The rations we got, those were out of the Philippines, that I know for sure. We'd mix and match.
The squid,
Grab
the
some
shrimp.
stuff out of a sea ration. Particularly, my big thing was peaches. If I could get a can of peaches, that made my whole day. And then I tried lerps once, and I went back and I just mixed the rice up, and they had little bags of rice that was already processed.
Yeah.
And you just poured the water in it, and 2 hours later it was ready to eat. And the CIDG would go through that rice. They'd be picking leaves off the trees when we went by, and so they were chow hounds. I don't know, Bob, when you were there, did they have the indigenous rations?
Uh, No, we had pretty much the old C's, WW2Cs that were left over, and don't remember getting any alerts in out there while I was out there, and a lot of stuff. When Stearns would go in once a month to make his trades, he'd, like I said, take Mountain Yard paraphernalia in there and come back with stuff we all needed. And we had a refrigerator that would work off the generator. We could get some meat in there and have real meat, but never did get any. At first, my exposure to alert rations was, well, I came home and ended up going to Navy school up Mare Island. And that's about all I ate out there for 6 weeks with alert rations.
I was introduced to them when come in at that time. New people in the country had to go out to Entree Island off of the train, go through. They don't want you tipping over, so you're running up and down the hills with sandbags in your backpacks and stuff. But I was not impressed with them.
That's interesting. Thank you very much.
It was probably the most interesting year of my life. That over there, I'm a farm boy from North Dakota. I went through ROTC and decided I didn't want to be behind a desk, so I volunteered for infantry. This is through ROTC, infantry, airborne, and special forces. And in 1968, I got run through all three and ended up over there on the helipad in A-108. Talk about green, second lieutenant, but having grown up on a farm, some of the people, the isolation bothered them. You know, we got your mail whenever the helicopter come in.
If they remembered to bring it.
Yeah.
And if they didn't remember, they didn't stay long.
I bet.
We had one captain from C team, I don't think ever left the perimeter of Marble Mountain unless he got on a helicopter to come out and see us once a month, and would never bring the mail back. So he didn't come back anymore. I mean, we were going 6-7 weeks sometime without mail, and it just didn't work out very good.
Well, they'd improved, gotten that straightened out by the time I was there. It was fairly regular.
Yeah,
Well, he
and
probably
you-
heroes too.
Did you have a
someone had shot him?
Did you have a Chinese cook out there at the
No.
time you were there?
We cooked ourselves.
Okay. We had a
Now,
Chinese guy
My
named
second
Wong.
tour, I lived with the Navy Sea Wolves mostly. I had the Army PBRs, and the Sea Wolves provided my direct support. And they still had their kitchen, Navy kitchen, with the Filipinos cooking. And so we ate good then. But no, we did. No, we did ourselves, and some of the yards do pretty good on making rice. So we'd get a ball of rice and eat it. But food never was a big problem for us. We always found something to eat.
There was an NCO that was in charge of the mess in C team in Da Nang. His nickname was Pork Chop. He'd been over there 2-3 years at the time when I was over there, because he was heading out. He was so heavy. He didn't dare go back because he figured he'd be medicaled out. So, but he had a terrific mess in C team.
You never got to see the old C team location over on the runway, did you? Well, that was quite a place. You talk about noise. All the F4s took off right adjacent to our C team,
Oh, okay, you weren't out on,
24/7 going north.
you weren't out on the beach then at that
Well, we
time.
moved to the,
Okay,
that was one of the things, went in that last month to get some things done and set up on the beach and get built. And we did a pretty good job building stuff. And still run air operations and stuff like that. So it was a fun thing, really. That beach was prime property, man, I tell you. Beautiful place. Right now, you couldn't afford to go to it.